and we are here to talk with you about the next, one of the upcoming joint departures that Bent will operate with Zegrahm Expeditions. It's a trip that we call Wild and Ancient Britain with Ireland. It is a British Isles cruise aboard the Ocean Adventurer that will operate May 9th through 24th, 2018. And as I get started here, I'd like to introduce Victor Emanuel.
Well, I'm delighted to be here to talk about this exciting cruise. I can't think of any area of the world, any islands like Ireland and the islands of Great Britain that have such an exciting destination because of the history of the people that have lived there and the effect on the world of the people that live there who traveled all the world, of course, many to the United States. And so this trip will explore that, plus the fabulous wildlife, particularly the seabirds, and we'll be talking about that during our slideshow. But it's an amazing trip, and it covers such a wonderful slice of the world, and I hope you'll consider joining it. So now Barry's going to start the slideshow, and then I might make some remarks doing it.
Okay, well, thank you, Victor. Thank you very much. And you know, one of the things that, as I always say when I start these webinars, I like to present a geographic overview of the trip, where we, just a second. Okay, sorry, I had a brief technical interruption there. Anyway, so this trip, as Victor pointed out, this trip is pretty comprehensive. It's diverse. It doesn't focus on any one small region or particular country, but rather it is a survey of the British Isles. Starting from London in the south, you will embark the ship in Portsmouth, and you will go all the way up through the Irish Sea, wrapping around the coast of Ireland, the western coast of England, and up and around Scotland, up all the way to the Shetland Islands before returning to Aberdeen and then on to Edinburgh at the end of the trip. So this really is a comprehensive program, and we think it has something for everybody. You know, this part of the world is home to some of the greatest seabird breeding colonies in the North Atlantic, but it's about a lot more than that. It is rife with cultural options. It is teeming with history, and you know, all of this blends together for a really super diverse trip. And what I like to point out on a trip like this is that there are options for people. Whether your interest is purely in natural history or purely cultural or a nice blend of both, to whatever degree your heart's desire, we really like this trip, and for that reason. So good. What I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to be returning to this map. I'll announce that now to be able to continue to orient you throughout the program here. But when you fly into London, you will take a train down to Portsmouth, and you will get on the ship in the afternoon. And you will spend the next couple of days working out the western side of the southern part of England, out toward Falmouth and Penzance and onto the Isles of Scilly. And in Falmouth and Penzance, there will be a range of activities, including a chance to visit the Trebaug Gardens and also the Trellisset Gardens, all of which are noted for their famous collections of native and imported plants. And you know, one of the things about England, particularly southern England, is that it is so famous for its gardens. And this trip, over the course of the first several days to a week, will give people the opportunity to experience some of this. And one of what I think is one of the beautiful things about it is that these gardens are mature. They've been there for a long time, and the diversity of plants is high. And so while you're walking around, taking your time, meandering through the various paths and trails of these gardens, you can also engage in birding. Here is a representation of some of the resident birds of southern England: the song thrush on the left, the common chaffinch in the bottom right, and the European greenfinch up on the top right. As we move into the Isles of Scilly, both here and also at Falmouth and Penzance, again, opportunities to visit some of these gardens. And you know, it's a beautiful experience, and what we think is a nice, easy way to warm into the trip. From the Isle of Scilly, we will work our way out all the way to the southwestern corner of Ireland and to the Skellig Islands. And the Skellig Islands are known for their masses of breeding birds and also their fairly scenic landscapes and seascapes. They are rugged rocky outcrops that emerge out of the Atlantic Ocean, and they are home to a fine variety of breeding birds: northern gannets, black-legged kittiwakes, razorbills, Atlantic puffins, which are always of high interest. And here we have herring gulls. There are other species of gulls too, but this is a nice representation of the birds that breed out here. And in particular, you know, everything, like with any expedition, everything is weather dependent. But should the weather cooperate, we'll actually have a chance to take a hike on the island of Skellig Michael to see the ruins of a 6th century anchorite monastery. But even if we can't do that, you can see here these islands. They're not very large, and so it makes them easy to explore either with the cruise ship or getting into Zodiacs and getting up close to see the birds, the breeding birds out here. And again, should we be fortunate enough, weather cooperating, we can get on and explore some of the history of the island and take a hike into the interior. From the Skellig Islands, we will work our way back around the southern coast of Ireland, and we will come to Dunmore East and the Saltee Islands. We'll be on the Irish mainland at this point, as you can see, and there will be different options depending on what your level of interest is. Those of you who are interested in birding will have a chance to enjoy a landscape like this and also visit a colony of northern gannets. This is actually on Great Saltee Island, and this is the afternoon activity. In the morning, some of you may realize this, perhaps not, but Dunmore East, this general area, this is the home of the famous Waterford Crystal Works. And so we are offering a tour will be offered of the Crystal Works. But even if you don't want to do that, there is also an option to visit the beautiful gardens at Mount Congreve, which is a 700-acre estate featuring a world-class collection of rhododendrons, azaleas, camellias, and other flora. And of course, anytime you're outdoors, you will have the opportunity to be watching for birds. So a nice full day there, regardless of what your interests are. And back at Great Saltee, this is an example of what you can expect on the afternoon activity. These rocky hills covered in breeding gannets and gulls and fulmars, razorbills. As you can see, razorbills in the water, a razorbill with fish in its bill as it heads back to its burrow up on the side of one of these hills. European shags, and also there are a couple of kinds of seals, gray seals and harbor seals. Once we leave the Saltee Islands, we will then continue north, and we will hit the famous Isle of Man, a place name that is well known to many, sort of a famous part of Anglo-Saxon lore. And when we get to the Isle of Man, there will be more opportunities for both historical, cultural excursions as well as natural history. And in the morning, one of the things that will be kind of fun is the opportunity to take a narrow gauge, to ride a Victorian era narrow gauge steam train, and then take a tour of Castle Rushen. In the afternoon, this is a small islet called the Isle of Calf, or the Calf of Man rather, and we will be doing a Zodiac cruise around the island, weather depending. And you can see that it's a fairly wild-looking scene here, with seals hauled up on the bases of the cliffs. There will be a variety of breeding birds, seabirds, and shorebirds, such as this beautiful Eurasian oyster catcher featured on the bottom right here. From the Isle of Man, we will work our way all the way up toward Northern Ireland at the top of the landmass there, on the left side of your screen here. And in particular, we will spend a morning in the vicinity of Portrush, the coastal community of Portrush, and then in the afternoon we will visit the famous Isle of Isla. And at Portrush, one of the interesting things that for those of you who have an interest in geology or unusual landscapes, we will visit this remarkable feature called the Giant's Causeway, which is essentially a product of an ancient volcanic eruption. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it features these columns of interlocking basalt, pieces of basalt. And this is a product of the cooling pattern of the lava. But anyway, it actually forms something of a staircase, and it'll give you an opportunity to walk around out here and photograph the landscape around you. It is an amazing geologic wonder. And then in the afternoon on Isla, at this point you have entered Scotland, and I think suffice it to say, no trip to Scotland would be complete without a visit to a distillery. And Isla is famous for its distilleries, and we'll have a chance to visit this one in particular, the Lagavulin distillery. And so those of you who have a taste for Scotch will certainly enjoy this opportunity. Moving north, at this point, of course, we're deeper into Scotland along the northwestern coast here, and we will have a day where we will visit the two islands of Staffa and Iona right here. Staffa is famous for its this remarkable geologic feature called Fingal's Cave, and this of course is the site where Mendelssohn, or because of this cave, where Mendelssohn composed his famous Hebrides overture. It gave him the inspiration. Between the wind and the wave action across the opening of this cave, apparently he was quite inspired as he developed his overture. Depending on the weather conditions and the sea conditions, we may actually be able to enter the cave. And of course, the whole time we'll be on the watch for seabirds. These northern fulmars and these European shags are representative of some of the things that you might see here. And then in the afternoon, we will head over to Iona. And Iona is famous. This is where St. Columba established a monastery in the 6th century, and which led to the spread of Christianity through Scotland. It's a scenic place, it's a historic place, and a highly photogenic one too, as we will visit the remains of the cemetery where Scottish kings rest in peace, the remains of a nunnery and in particular a beautiful abbey that is here also. Here on Iona, this bird on the right is called a corncrake, and it is one of the birds that is particularly well known around Iona. It is said that when you walk around Iona, you can hear them calling almost everywhere you go. There is a winter wren here in the top, and of course Atlantic puffins and gulls and all these wonderful birds nest in and around the island. From here, we will travel to famous St. Kilda, and up here, which is about as far offshore as we will get on the western side of the island, of the British Isles. And St. Kilda is uninhabited. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it is also the site of some tremendous seabird colonies.
It's one of the remote parts of the British Isles. Most seldom visited, very few people that get to go there. Respiratory Peterson went there with his very close friend James Fisher, the seabird expert, and wrote about it in his book, one of his books about birds. And people did live there, but they were evacuated during the war, and now there are just some caretakers. But there's this enormous gannet colony and beautiful rock outcrop that is the island. As I say, it's an amazing place to go, one of the highlights of the trip.
And here is a photograph of St. Kilda, and it is these funny little structures called a cleat down on the lower right. This little beehive or dome shape structure which was used centuries ago for storing food and so on. And of course, St. Kilda is an exceptional birding area. It's famous at this season for migrating birds and also its nesting seabirds. As a representation, we have a Eurasian wren here on the top left, a northern wheatear on the top right, a Eurasian oystercatcher, and more fulmars. On the day that we visit St. Kilda, in the afternoon, we will also visit the nearby Flannan Islands. Rugged islands that emerge out of the North Atlantic, but home to remarkable seabird colonies. Northern gannets, some of the biggest northern gannet colonies in existence are in these areas here. Manx shearwater, which is a smaller seabird that we hope to see while we're at sea, either out at sea or coming and going perhaps from its cliffside nesting burrow.
And the gannets soar above the island. They form this enormous mass of birds going up in the air from the island on up. They're kind of soaring around before they go down to their nest. And it's one of the great sights of the British Isles that very few people get to see.
From St. Kilda and the Flannan Islands, we will begin to turn a course to the east as we make our way toward the top of Scotland and the Orkney Islands. And the Orkneys, in particular, here at Kirkwall, which is a highly scenic and photogenic little town in the port city on the Orkney Islands. And here we'll have a chance to engage in a variety of historical, cultural, and sightseeing activities. The beautiful St. Magnus Cathedral, was founded in 1137. It was added to for hundreds of years after, but it is certainly a not missed site here in the Orkneys. And of course, the Ring of Brodgar, which is one of the famous ancient henges of Scotland, dating back, it's thought to be as old as 4,000 to 5,000 years old. And so we will have a chance to do that when we go into the Orkneys, and of course, enjoy these beautiful moorlands and other landscapes.
Another thing that's happening at the time of year when you're there, of course, is that birds are migrating from the south up through to their breeding colonies further north. And sometimes very rare migrants turn up in the Orkneys and in the Shetland. When I was there before, right in a lady's garden, we had the eastern species of the nightingale right in her garden. People actually came flying in to see it because it's so rare in Britain. So that's an exciting thing. You never know quite what you're going to run into in these islands in terms of migrating birds.
All right, thank you, Victor. From the Orkneys, we will be making our way to the northeast, and we will hit the northernmost point of our cruise route, which are the Shetland Islands, the famous Shetland Islands. And again, there will be a number of stops up here. We will spend a fair amount of time here in the Shetland. One of the things that we'll do is we'll have a tour of Lerwick, which is the island capital. Again, as with the Orkneys, it's an interesting place. It's a photogenic place. There will be opportunities for cultural, historical excursions. We're watching for birds the whole time. Things like black guillemots and common gulls and herring gulls and lesser blackback gulls. All these things are in existence. So there's always something to keep us occupied. At Sumburgh Head, which is at I believe the southern tip of the Shetland Islands, we'll have a chance to head to the lighthouse. And there, below the lighthouse, on the cliffs below, there is a large colony of Atlantic puffins and northern fulmars. And of course, the vantage points from these headlands give you opportunities to photograph the seascapes around us. Jarlshof, which is an interesting historic site. It dates back all the way to the Neolithic era, but there are Iron Age structures here, as well as remnants of the Vikings who were here starting around the 11th century, I believe. And then, again, here you can see an example of what it is like to be on the ship as you make your way through these locations around the island. Cliffs stacked with breeding seabirds, thick-billed and common murres, northern gannets, razorbills, European shags. You know, the diversity up here is not as high as it is in other places. You know, for example, if you compare it to the tropics, you're not going to see nearly as big of a variety. But this is about spectacles, and it's revealing how these nutrient-rich waters of the North Atlantic support some of the world's largest colonies of breeding seabirds. And to see these things in the breeding ground when they are courting, and they're in different stages of the breeding cycle, and they're coming and going from their breeding colonies and swirling around you on the ship, flying past you low over the water. It's something not to be missed. It's a wonderful experience.
And these cliffs are very scenic and also give you an aspect of geology that people on the boat will talk about, some of your lecturers. And this is where the geology started with Lyell. And he was a mentor of Darwin. It was Lyell's work that helped further Darwin's ideas about the age of the Earth and evolution. But it was on these cliffs that he came up with a theories about geology.
All right, thank you, Victor. And this particular bird cliff is on the Isle of Noss. In the same area in the evening, we will finish our day at Musa, which is a dry stone structure that was built in the year 200 AD. And we may have an opportunity to ascend the structure. But again, the history here is truly ancient, goes way back, thousands of years. And to see that history juxtaposed against the wild landscapes and the sheer number of breeding birds around you, it's a raw, sort of almost a, I don't want to say pristine, but it's sort of a truly unspoiled feeling when you're out here. From Musa, at this point, we will definitely be making our way back south. The next stop on our route is going to be Fair Isle. And at Fair Isle, we will have a chance to once again engage in both natural history and cultural activities. Here is a picture of Fair Isle. There are some birds in the water here, sort of a lonely outpost here in the North Atlantic Ocean, but teeming with birds. And there are people here as well.
It's famous for vagrant birds. People from all over Europe go there, particularly all over Britain, to see migrating birds that might stop on Fair Isle. There's a bird observatory here.
And I include this slide as well because, you know, the island is famous for its Shetland ponies and also for its sheep, which produce some of the best wool known for knitwear, sweater making, and so on. Victor was alluding to the importance of this site ornithologically, and in addition to things like the European shag, you may also see a great skua photographed here at the top center, and also eiders. This is a common eider, a female common eider, and we will make a stop at Fair Isle. And you know, this is just, again, I always say this, but this is representative of what you could see. Given the island's fame as a birding migration hotspot, we never really know what we're going to see, but it's bound to be good. From Fair Isle, we will make the final transit. We will come back down to Aberdeen, the so-called Granite City, up on the northeast coast of Scotland. And then from there, we will board a train for our final adventure of the trip. We will take a train down to Edinburgh, where the trip will end. And then you will depart Scotland the next day for those of you that are going home. Now, if you are wondering what your method of transport is, here it is. It's the 120 guest passenger Ocean Adventurer, a beautiful small size expedition vessel, and at 120 guests, you know, this class of cruise ship, we love them. And the reason why is because, you know, they're large enough so that everybody can spread out, and you'll have plenty of room, yet the trip it's still small enough to retain the intimacy that you want from and expect from a high-quality travel experience. The Ocean Adventurer, here are some views of the ship inside and out. the expedition staff. Andrew Whitaker, who many of you may know. Andy is a longtime vent leader. He guides tours all over South America, but he will be guiding our trip to Antarctica, also with Zegrahm Expeditions in January of 2018. Andy is actually originally from England, and so he has plenty of experience in this guiding tours in this part of the world. But in addition to Andy's skills and talents, he will join a very excellent expedition staff presented by Zegrahm Expeditions. Mike Messick, one of the most talented and most experienced expedition leaders in the business. Tim Bowman, who we've traveled before, a historian. There's an ornithologist, a geologist, which is essential for a trip to this part of the world. So on top of all the birding and natural history that you would get from the vent leader, you're also getting all this big surplus of information and leadership by this excellent Zegrahm staff.
Well, let me take this opportunity to mention that if you want to add on to this trip, immediately prior to this trip, Vent offers a trip called Scotland in Style, Birds and History. It will be a land-based trip that will cover areas of Scotland that you don't cover on the cruise. We'll see more of the land birds and breeding birds. Andrew Whitaker will be one of the leaders on that trip.
Yeah.
So you can take that trip prior to getting on the boat and doing the cruise that Barry's been describing.
And thank you, Victor, because that's a perfect segue into what I was also going to mention here, which is that for those that want more time in Scotland, Zegrahm is offering an optional 5-day extension to the Faroe Islands, for a whole other set of experiences.
And obviously, if you just want to stay in Aberdeen, in Edinburgh, after you end the cruise, it's a marvelous city for culture and plays and history. To spend a few days there.
All right. So again, Wild and Ancient Britain with Ireland, May 9th through 24th, 2018, with vent leader Andrew Whitaker. Cabins begin at $10,980 per person in double occupancy. If you would like any more information about this trip or you would like to register, we encourage you to contact our office. Greg Lopez is our operations manager. He's assisted by Patrick Swaggerty. Either of them are available via email or by calling our office, and all of that contact information is displayed right here. So,
and one of the advantages of cruises that we just need to point out, that Barry talked about the fact that there's something for everyone, great for non-birding shelters, but you still into your room, and then that's your home for the trip. You're not changing one hotel to another. You're staying in that room. That's your base, and it's a very lovely, comfortable room. We have all the amenities of the ship. So it's different than where you're moving around by bus or vehicle, going from one hotel to another. A lot of people like that about cruises.
All right. Well, thank you, Victor. And I think that wraps it up.
Thank you both. A belated introduction of myself. I'm Lisa Bertini, and I work at Zegrahm and work with Vent on some partner trips. And you always do such a great job on promoting us. You really should go on the road with us. One of the things I did want to mention is that we are an all-inclusive cruise line. So once you land in the embarkation airport, you don't necessarily touch your wallet ever again for the whole trip. So that was just worth mentioning. That includes gratuities and anything else that, any activities, any events, and that is also spirits on board with meals. I don't see that we have any questions that have come through. So I did include some handouts for you. One was a birding and wildlife list from one of our past trips to Britain, as well as a vent brochure that really outlines the trip in its entirety. So if there's no other questions, I will wish you a great rest of your day, and hopefully we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lisa.